Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this walkthrough unboxing first impressions of the Land Sky Oracle by Teresa Hutch. There's a funny story actually for me about this deck. I had picked up the White Sage Tarot and I was, as a result of Don Michelle over at Boho Tarot, also looking now at the Land Sky Oracle. And I was looking at Teresa Hutch's website where she has the independent version of this oracle, I believe, available, or it might have even been this version, I'm not sure. And then my local metaphysical store, Reflections Books, had posted on their social media that they had this in stock, and I was like, no way. Now they've been bringing in more independent decks, so I thought I'd go check it out because it might be a little bit more affordable than trying to order directly from a creator in the US, because I'm in Canada and things get a little bit pricey. So I thought I'd go check it out in person. And when I got there, I was surprised how affordable it was. I think it was like $30-something Canadian, again. I think it's important to mention that. There is not a price, I don't think, listed anywhere on the box. But yeah, it was like $30-something, and I was really excited that I got it for that kind of a price. And it wasn't until I got home that I realized it's US Games. So the Oracle has also been picked up by US Games. The tinned deck is US Games, so that makes so much sense. Comes in a really nice sturdy box, and I'm real excited about this, you guys. Look at the, nope, that's an escapee. A really nice sturdy two-piece box. Let's get into it. So if you don't know, the White Sage Tarot and the Land Sky Oracle are both informed by yogic philosophies or yogic theories and concepts, Eastern theories and concepts. I don't want to get too deep into like specifics on that because I will definitely get something wrong. But the White Sage Tarot incorporates a lot of chakra energy, and the Land Sky Oracle is basically an oracle deck that is based on Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga. So we often think of yoga as the physical postures, but the physical postures are only one of the 8 limbs of yoga. So one of the beautiful things about this deck is they give you a card that has the 8 limbs on it. So Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga consist of the yamas, the niyamas, the asanas, the pranayamas, the pratyaharas, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. I'm probably saying some of that wrong, but these are the Sanskrit. I think it's really beautiful that Teresa Hutch has used the Sanskrit names here. I think that's really important. I think the Sanskrit is more comprehensive than trying to associate it with just an English word. So I really appreciate that that's in there, and I love that they've given you a tree here to show the 8 limbs of yoga. There's also a really lovely little guidebook here, which gives you more information on every card, which is great. We'll dive into that more at the end. And another really exciting thing that comes in this deck, I think is really beautiful, is a gorgeous full paper illustration of the 8 limbs of yoga. So we have dharana, which is concentration, pratyahara, turning inward, yamas, which are, what does that say? Oh, honor others, niyama, honor yourself. So asana, physical postures, pranayama, breath work, samadhi is enlightenment, and dhyana is meditation. And I just think that's super beautiful. And then on the back, you have the Yoga Sutra for each of these 8 limbs. So yama consists of non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, and non-greed. These great vows are universal, not limited by class, place, time, or circumstance. And that's Yoga Sutra 2.3 to 2.31. And she does that for each of them. And I think it's really beautiful that the original Yoga Sutras are referenced here. I think that's really powerful, and it gives you more to meditate on. So lovely inclusion there as well. So you have like sort of 3 little extras, I guess you could say, or accompaniments to this deck. So I'm not going to try to get into the structure of this deck in any major way because it's new to me and I will surely mess it up. But I'm going to take you through the cards, and one of the things I have to say that I love about this is that while this is all based on these very big concepts, the 8 limbs of yoga, and there are cards for basically everything within that, I think it's really beautiful that in addition to the Sanskrit word and the gorgeous image and the sacred geometry and all of that stuff, we also have a simple statement to go along with each card, so that especially if you're not as familiar with what these concepts are, or if you want to learn more, there's a jumping off point, which I think is really helpful. So let's zoom in and we'll take a look at all of the cards. So we have Yama, honor others, and we have a cow. Ahimsa, compassion, and we have ducks. I think these are ducks. Satya, truthfulness. Asteya, non-stealing. So what we've seen here, just to kind of, we're going to follow this along actually here. So we're in the first limb. So we're going to just keep this handy. I'm going to keep this little guide handy. So we have Yama. So we're in this limb here, the Yama limb. So we have Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, which is non-stealing. I love the raccoon pictured here. Brahmacharya for moderation. And Aparigraha is non-greed. And we have this squirrel with his cheeks stuffed full, like basically not taking more than you need, right? So these are all of the yamas, which I think is super cool. And then we get into the niyamas. So we have niyama card, which is honor yourself. And we have a bull. Saucha, which is purity. Santosha, contentment. Tapas is zeal. Svadhyaya is self-study. Ishvara Pranidhana is dedication to Supreme, or I would see this as kind of like a devotion, that sort of thing. And now we're on to Asana. So physical postures. And I think it's really beautiful that this deck did not succumb to perhaps the temptation to include a whole lot of these, but instead to pick some simple asanas, some simple postures that you could play with and experiment. And we'll see how accessible they are. I can't quite recall. So let's dive in. So we have Matsyasana. Wow, I stumbled on that one. This is fish pose. Fish pose is really lovely, and there are some really accessible ways to do this pose. It is a heart opening pose, so it's really wonderful for getting into that heart space, obviously. Cobra pose, Bhujangasana, is also a heart opening pose, but it also helps to provide some healthy compression into the lower back. And it can also, I think, help you connect with your solar plexus chakra, or that feeling of sort of inner ferocity or courage. Ustrasana, camel pose, also a heart opener. So this is interesting. I wonder if these aren't all heart openers, but I think it's interesting that we have essentially 3 different back bending or heart opening style poses out of 5 total poses. But also worth noting, let's see, Matsyasana is a supine pose, so you're lying on your back. Cobra pose is a prone pose, so you're laying on your belly. Ustrasana is a kneeling pose. Camel pose is a kneeling pose. Still a heart opener though. Vrikshasana is tree pose. So this is a standing balancing pose. A lot of us have seen this one before. You're standing on one leg and you have one foot against your inner thigh or your inner calf or against your ankle, and it's a balance pose. Hands at heart center or hands raised up overhead like tree branches. Beautiful pose for connecting to yourself, for working on focus and building concentration. But that is a standing pose, and Tadasana is a standing pose. So Vrikshasana is a balance. And then Tadasana is a simple standing posture. Mountain pose is simple standing, but it's not so simple when you start to dive into the details. Really beautiful, powerful poses here. And I would say most of these are accessible in some form. I would really be curious if the guidebook dives into the reason for these specific 5 postures being chosen. I think they are good postures and ones that I think would be healthy and helpful to practice every day. I'm just trying to decide if I see a progression here of like a mini practice. Possibly. These first 2 poses would prepare you for camel pose. So you could have a mini little practice here potentially. So now we're into pranayama, which is breath work. And here we have Ujjayi Pranayama, which is victorious breath, often called also the ocean breath, and one of the most commonly practiced within traditional, I should say Western yoga practices. We see this one the most often, and it's a wonderful connecting breath, wonderful for mindfulness and presence, but also very powerful. Brahmari Pranayama, a bee breath. This is a really good one for, I think, for raising energy, raising the vibration. Anulam Vilam Pranayama, energy purification breath. I'm curious, because I can't wait, because I have no patience, which one this is in case I know it by a different name. With your right hand, bring your pointer finger and middle finger to rest between your eyebrows. Take a deep breath in and out through your nose. This is alternate nostril breathing. I think it's alternate nostril breathing, which I thought there was another name for that. I don't know why I'm just suddenly having a bit of a... Yeah, I think that's what that is. It's a really, really great breath. But I just didn't know its Sanskrit name, which is telling because, well... Kalabati Pranayama, skull shining breath, is another really powerful one, and one for refinement. And breath work is one of those things, I would say, I don't know if she gets into this in the guidebook, but just please, with any kind of breath work, it's really important to go very slowly and to never do anything you're uncomfortable with. You can really mess with your body. Breaths are very powerful, right? That's your life force. So be gentle, be careful, and take things slow when you're learning a new breath pattern. And Bastrika Pranayama, which is bellows breath. This is a really good one. Also a very powerful breath with a lot of energy to it. So again, one I would encourage you to, learn the other ones first, for sure. I think these definitely go in a bit of a progression. Let me just think here. As far as complication goes, yeah. So start with Ujjayi, and when you master that, then move on, kind of thing, if you're going to try the breath practices with using this deck. Okay. Next, we have Pratyahara. And this is turning inward. And I love this section because she's done a really cool thing here. So for this section, you have a crystal for the next, there's all 4 of the next sections. For each one, you have a crystal, a tool, an aim, an obstacle, and a deity. So in this first one, Pratyahara, our crystal is malachite, heal. And I actually picked up a malachite crystal because I didn't have one, and I wanted one of each of these crystals to work with this deck. So malachite is heal. The tool is white sage for Pratyahara. Again, Pratyahara being turning inward. Isn't that what it said? Yes, turning inward. Okay, so the tool is white sage, cleanse. The aim is dharma, or living in alignment with your life's purpose. It just says life's purpose here. But your dharma is like the reason you're here, right? So living in alignment with that is an aim. Your obstacle is raga and dvesha. Dvesha, I'm not sure if I'm saying that one right. Attachment and aversion. So that's the challenge or the obstacle. And the deity is Hanuman, devotion. Hanuman is an incredible deity, and you could study any one of these deities that are in this deck. You could study extensively and just gain so much wisdom. But Hanuman is one of my favorites. There's a lot of beauty and power of devotion in his story. It's really powerful. And now we're into Dharana, which is concentration. So this is going to be the crystal, the tool, the aim, the obstacle, and the deity associated with concentration. So amethyst, it says nourish here. And I think amethyst is a wonderful crystal for concentration. Chimes, I love these. Awaken. These are so beautiful. I have a set of these and I just love them. Our aim is Artha, balanced life. And the obstacle is asmita, or egoism. And the colors here, again, interestingly, I think you can dive into chakras with the colors in these cards as well. So here we have blue and yellow, so throat and solar plexus, which is interesting for balanced life and egoism. And in the previous one, we had dharma, where we had root and solar plexus, or root and sacral, with a hint of solar plexus. So there's 3 here. And a bit of heart in here as well. So really interesting to kind of look at the colors and think about the chakras like you would in the White Sage Tarot. So love that. And then Kali, fierce love for Dharana, for concentration. Love that. Next, we're into Dhyana, which is meditation. So I expect to see a lot more of like sort of heart and third eye chakra colors, but we'll see. Crown. So we have a howlite, intuition, for the crystal. Mala, to remember, is the tool. Kama, which is beauty. And again, here we see throat and crown and third eye as our primary colors. Spiritual ignorance, avidya, this is the obstacle, spiritual ignorance. And love, Ganesha is the deity for this set, for the Dhyana set. And lastly, we have Samadhi, Samadhi being enlightenment. I love this owl. Tathata, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Tathata, I think. Suchness. Suchness is such a beautiful word. I love that. Clear quartz, clarity. The aim is moksha, liberation. And this is all crown chakra to me. These are all crown chakra. Yeah, all except for, so this has some throat chakra colors in it. And here we have a little bit of crown. A little bit of third eye, but this is very much crown. Liberation is the aim of Samadhi. And Abhinavesha, fear of death. Abhinavesha, I'm pretty sure. Fear of death. Again, crown chakra only. And Buddha, grace, as our final deity. Wowza, these are so beautiful. I don't know if there are any reversals in the guidebook, so let's just take a little peek at what we have here. So Land Sky Oracle does talk about breath work a bit. Good. There are some spreads in here. I think I would work with these one card at a time, probably. I love that the sutras are referenced in each of these cards, and there's some reflections, which is great because reflections can be journal prompts or meditation prompts, which I love. So I'm just curious. I don't see anything about reversals or anything like that. I think it's meant to be really educating you about the concept of that that part of the 8 limbs of yoga. Let's see what she says about the postures. Asana is a steady, comfortable posture. Yes, indeed. Can you find ease in a difficult pose as it gets hard? You breathe deeply as a kind of muscle memory. Be compassionate in your practice. Love this. So this one, fish pose, fluid, lives with ease. Bhujangasana, cobra pose, heart open and fearless. Yes. Ustrasana, camel pose, is about steadiness and tolerance. Vrikshasana, tree pose, balance and surrender. And Tadasana is about strength and grace. So I think she's picked them for their qualities, which I think is really beautiful. And there are instructions here for each of the breath works. So we have Ujjayi Pranayama, and there is steps here on how to do, isn't there? Oh yes, I just went too fast, yeah. Ujjayi Pranayama, yep, there's 2 steps here. Brahmari Pranayama, there are 7 steps. So it talks about how to do the bee breath. I love this so much. Nadi Shodhana, that's the name I know. Okay, that was bugging me. Okay, so the alternate nostril breathing here called Anulam Vilam Pranayama, which may be its original name, I'm not sure, but it says also known as Nadi Shodhana. That's what I was blanking on when I was going through the cards. Nadi Shodhana being the alternate nostril breathing. This is a really lovely breath for calming, for anxiety. It says its qualities are balance and glow. It's a go-to if I'm stressed. Kalabati Pranayama, cleansing and clarity. This is the skull shining breath, and it does talk about how to do that. Love this. I love that there's instructions for the breaths. All the rest of these, I mean, there's a good amount of information here. It's just a wonderful little dipping your toes into all the concepts of Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga. I think if you have an interest in any of these practices, if any of this is speaking to you, this seems like such a wonderful way to dip your toes in. And there's so much more depth you can get from it. Inspiration, and these are the sacred geometries featured throughout the deck. So there's 8 total, which I think may be associated with chakras as well. Or no, with each of the 8 limbs, I see. So she's picked a different sacred geometry for each of the 8 limbs. So each one of these, so you can associate them with whatever limb that they're on. And just like in the chakras, the higher up in the limbs that you go, the more complex the geometry. So much depth in this deck, and the colors are so calming and beautiful. My only regret about this deck is that, and we will pull a card and read it together in just a moment. My only regret is that I wish there wasn't such a huge size disparity between this deck and the White Sage Tarot. I wish we could get a fuller size version of the White Sage Tarot, but I'm going to have no problem working with these together, and I'm really excited to work with them together, so we shall see. So let's give this a shuffle. I'm going to keep them shuffled upright because there doesn't appear to be any reversed meanings or anything to take into account. I got to zoom this back out too. Let's do that. Oops, this way. There we go. And then I'll fan our cards and we'll pick one. They shuffle beautifully, but US Games cardstock is just lovely. It's flexible but sturdy. And the backs of these cards are really pretty too. Okay. All right, let's give us a little fan. Whoop. You are misbehaving. There we go. All right, we'll pull the card off the top, and we have Pranayama breathwork. So let's see what the guidebook has to say about Pranayama, which should be, I believe, the third limb. Or I don't know what I'm talking about. Also completely possible. There's Asana. There we go. Pranayama is after Asana. So it says receptivity and bridge to the divine. When breathing is disturbed, so limb 4, when breathing is disturbed, the mind is disturbed. When the breath is controlled, the mind is under control. Thus, one should gain control of the breath. That's Yogi Hari. A white bull with an owl on its head represents the bridge between the land and the sky. Breath is essential to life. It is the first thing we do when we are born and the last thing we do when we leave. Your breath continues automatically without effort. Draw your focus back to your breath while you inhale and exhale through your nose. Oops. The Yoga Sutra. That firm posture being acquired, the movements of the inhalation and exhalation should be controlled. This is pranayama. Yoga Sutra 2.49. And then the reflections. Notice the texture of your breath when you are happy and notice it when you are upset. Rather than reacting, breath awareness helps you reflect and then respond. Pranayama is best practiced first thing in the morning and on an empty stomach. Affirmation. Inhale, Sat, truth. Exhale, Nam, higher self. Sat, Nam. Sat, Nam. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love this. So I'm really excited to have brought this into my collection. Thank you to Dawn Michelle for turning me on to this deck in the first place. And I am really excited to work with it. I will let you guys know how it goes once I do work with it. This walkthrough may come before or after I work with it. I don't know how that's all going to land, but I am really excited to share this whole sort of dive in with you. Thank you so, so much. And remember to please click like if you enjoyed this video. Share if you know anybody who is interested in this deck or decks like this. Subscribe if you're new here. And remember, you can always book a reading with me over at supportivetarot.com. Thanks so much, you guys. And remember, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.